Good morning. Thank you guys all for coming. We are very excited today to be welcoming the Barefoot Contessa, Ina Garten, here to San Francisco.
Not nearly as excited as I am to be here.
And Ina is here for the Fancy Food Show, but we were lucky to snag her for a visit here today. And so, by the way, she has a new cookbook out called How Easy Is That? And so there's 100 of those available. If you want to snag one, Ina will sign cookbooks afterwards, and you can come up and meet her and ask her your questions. We also have the questions on the Dory page. But we're really, really excited to have you. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a little bit of your background, which I think everyone here is probably already familiar with, but I think there's some really great parts to it. So Ina and I met last April at a women's event, and we got to hear a little bit about our stories, each other's stories, and it was just really fun. And we've met again since through our friend Juliet DeBobney at Kleiner Perkins, one of our original VC firms, because Juliet turns out to be Ina's neighbor.
Next door neighbor.
In the Hamptons. And so I went to see Juliet this summer, and we were going to dinner at her neighbor's, and it turned out to be Ina, so we met again there. And so I actually have had dinner and brunch in Ina's famous kitchen.
It was one of my
and
great
it's really,
pleasures.
really amazing.
It was one of my great pleasures to say to Juliet, "Oh, I know Marissa."
And I had one of the best coffee cake I've ever had, like sugar rolled into the crust. It was amazing. But Ina's story is really fascinating because she started off working in the White House.
I did. In nuclear energy policy. How
I was going to say, like,
that?
it's amazing. Budget analyst writing the nuclear energy budget and policy papers on nuclear centrifuge for Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter.
You know, science, cooking, it actually is related. Except instead of hydrochloric acid, you end up with coffee cake.
I think we can all appreciate that. Well, a lot of us here like to apply science in unusual ways. So, and then as she was working there, saw an ad for a specialty food store that was for sale in the Hamptons called the Barefoot Contessa, and she bought the store and scaled it. And so much like we've scaled Google, Ina scaled it from a 400 square foot shop to now over 3,000 square foot shop. It moved twice and was this very, very successful business. She sold it to 2 of the employees in 1996 and then wrote a cookbook. And I want Ina to tell the story, but I think it was really interesting about how you made the bridge from the store to the cookbook.
Well, actually, Marissa and I were talking about this. I always wanted, I'd been doing the store for about 20 years, and I thought, it's really time to do something else. And for a couple of years, I was saying, well, what is that? What is that? I've got to know what it is. And a friend of mine said to me, type A people think they can figure out what they're going to do next while they're doing something, and they can't. She said, you have to quit. You just have to do nothing for a year. And so that's when I thought, okay, I'll sell the store to 2 employees, the chef and the manager, and then I'll just have nothing to do. If you think that's easy, it's not. I built myself an office upstairs in the building that we had where the store was, and I sat there for a year with nothing to do. I mean, Jeffrey, my husband Jeffrey, is at Yale, and he would leave on Monday and come back on Friday. And when he left on Monday one week, I said, I have nothing to do. I said, wait a minute. I looked at my schedule. I said, I have a manicure on Wednesday, and that's it. But it really was, out of sheer total boredom. One day I'd been baking 1,000 baguettes and running, a store with 100 employees, and the next day I had nothing to do. After about, I think, 9 months, out of sheer boredom, I thought, well, I have to do something. And Jeffrey said, stay in the game. You love the food business. Just do something in the food business. And I thought, well, I never wanted to write a cookbook, because I thought it would be really boring. But okay, maybe I'll write a cookbook just so I have something to do tomorrow. And it never would have happened if I hadn't started. And then it turned out cookbook writing is really interesting. So it was very good advice.
And then, of course, the cookbooks led to the television show.
Which
I've heard that you actually turned down the proposal the first time around.
Over and over again. Food Network was at a moment, and Marissa knows this, Food Network was at a moment when they had the French chefs with the big toques, and everybody, there's nothing, with triple layer mousses, and there was one woman at Food Network who said, I think it should be people that do home cooking, people who really understand how people cook at home. And she went out and found 4 people. She found Rachel Ray, Paula Dean, Jada, and me. And I mean, to this day, that really is the sort of the basis of Food Network. And I just said, no, I could never do that. Cooking on television, forget it. So she went away and came back about 6 months later with a better offer. And I thought, and I said, no, I'm not negotiating. I really don't want to do this. She came back 6 months later with a better offer. And I was like, no, go away. And in the meantime, a friend of mine had gone to Australia and seen a TV show, a cooking show that he thought was interesting. And so I went to Food Network and I said, could you get me a copy of this show so I could see it? And it was fantastic. And I said, but I still don't want to do a TV show. And so the Food Network went to London, found the producer, hired them, and called me and said, they're coming to East Hampton. Will you do it? And I was like, whoa! So I agreed to do 13 shows, thinking that would sort of solve that. And here we are 9 years later. So.
and an Emmy. And I will say, I mean, the Emmy is as sharp, heavy, and pointy as you'd expect. One of the dinner guests managed to see it tucked deep in the corners amid some papers in Ina's office. We all went and held it. So
it has a twin sister now. Second one.
A pair of them. And I will say, I mean, and Ina obviously is just, phenomenally popular, admired all over. The first day that I met her, as I said, we were at this women's event. And it happened, and just by happenstance, Oprah Winfrey happened to be there. And when I first met Ina, Oprah Winfrey, there was a fan of Ina's that was so excited to see Ina, she shoved Oprah out of the way. She was like, oh my God, Ina Garten. And I was like, that was Oprah.
And there I was seated on the podium, and Oprah's next to me, and she didn't speak to me the whole time. I thought, and until a few nights ago, I never understood why.
So that's a little bit of background. So we have some questions. I have some questions here. We have questions from our group, and we can take questions from the mic. So if you want to ask Ina a question, you can come here. We have mics on in the center and on the side here if you want to ask a question.
I love that there's an algorithm for figuring out the most popular question. Where else?
And actually, the question I was going to start with is the top of the dory. So I will just go to that, which is, what my question was: do you have a favorite dish that you just love to make? And I know it's hard. Somebody's like asking someone to pick a favorite child.
No. It's actually, I have a few. But my go-to meal when somebody's coming, they've never been there before, and I've got like a million things going on, is a meal that's in my parties book, which is rack of lamb and orzo with roasted vegetables. And it's so easy, and it's absolutely delicious. And nobody can believe that, everybody thinks you worked all day on it, so.
So I guess that's the go-to. What do you think makes a good chef? It's
really
hard, but like, what are the qualities?
It's I just think if people that really, I think I'm not a restaurant chef. I'm not a brilliant cook. I just think I really care about flavor and the texture of how things taste. And so I think if somebody's really interested in that, you're willing to just keep going until it's exactly the way you want it to be, rather than settling. And somebody once said to me, and it's really amazingly true, there are two ingredients that everybody has in their house that is very often the difference between something that's fairly ordinary and something that's absolutely delicious, and it's salt and pepper. Most things aren't seasoned properly. And I think that makes a huge difference. And I'm not happy unless it tastes fantastic. So I think that's really what makes a good chef, is a real passion for a really satisfying, delicious, and it can be also a very simple meal.
Sure. So is that what you would say the biggest mistake most chefs make, is not seasoning properly?
Salt. It's amazing what a difference it makes. The other day I was testing a recipe for braised lamb shanks for my next book, and I said to my assistant, taste it and see what you think. And I hadn't tasted it. It had just come out of the oven. And she said, it's okay, it's not great. And I tasted it and I said, okay, I'll be right back. Salt, pepper, and a splash of white wine. And I said, taste it now. And she was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I ever ate. And it was the same dish. It was so amazing so I think that's the biggest mistake.
Very cool. So then we have a couple of, I think, of kind of quick questions just to sort of
Sure.
pick your brain. So
let's see, the smartest people on the planet, and just go ask anything.
one was 3 cooking utensils that are the most important to you.
Good sharp knives, critical. It doesn't have to be 100 knives. It has to be like 3 really good knives. I love a zester, like those rasps, because I usually think that the zest on a lemon or an orange or something has more flavor than the juice itself. And half-sheet pans. I have a stack of them. Everything goes in a half-sheet. Brownies, roasted carrots, rack of lamb, everything. I mean, obviously you need more equipment than that, like an oven. But I mean, those are things that I literally couldn't live without.
So another question from the Dory. Say it's your last day. It's kind of morbid, but like, what would your meal be?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I actually was asked this question. Somebody auctioned off I think a cocktail party or something for benefit. And these young women came, they were just adorable, and they said, one of them was British, and she said, what's your hangman's meal? And I was like, what's that? And it turns out it's the same thing, it's your last dinner. And I said, I don't know what it would be, but I know it would have really good Chateau d'Yquem sauterne with every single course. So the first one might be foie gras. I know it's completely not PC, but it would be foie gras. The second one would probably be a lobster, like a grilled lobster thing, which is great with Chateau d'Yquem. And the third one would be a very thin French apple tart with Chateau d'Yquem. So I think I think the prison would be really out of a lot of money if I ordered that as my last meal.
Go ahead and take a question here from the audience. So.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
I'd like to ask about copyright intellectual property issues and writing a cookbook. I've got a wonderful pile of recipes from aunts and mom and acquaintances, and can you use those in a cookbook?
As long as they're not copyrighted, yes, absolutely. Sure, that shouldn't be any problem. I would probably ask their permission just to be nice.
Some of them are so old, yeah, they're 30 years old, and I have no idea where they came from, so.
Well,
Okay.
absolutely you could. And that'd be wonderful to publish all those old recipes.
Thank you.
And we have a lot of people who are interested in the actual filming of the television show. So is it actually filmed in your
It is
kitchen?
filmed in my house. It actually is. And we've been doing it there originally in my house, and then I built this huge barn, which Marissa knows, next door. So my commute to work is about 50 yards. And yeah, we do film. I just think it always feels like a set, and I love when we do the parties. It's a real party. They're my friends, and I tell the director, just leave us alone. We just have to have a good time. You can't fake it. If you're not having a good time, it doesn't look like a good time. So it's really, it's wonderful. I love the people. It's the same producer that originally started. And yeah, it's great. And I get to cook in my own kitchen.
And then a compliment in the form of a question of, does Jeffrey know he's the luckiest man in the world?
The dirty little secret is I'm high maintenance, so. He was stopped at a restaurant recently and someone said, do you know that you're the best fed man in America? He didn't take that quite as a compliment.
And everyone here knows, but we had Ina do our Thanksgiving doodle. And so, in fact,
much fun.
yeah, the original idea was, well, we knew we wanted to maybe have a chef cook the doodle, and then we thought, okay, like what chef is really popular or who would be cooking a Thanksgiving dinner, and so we asked Ina to do it. She obliged us, and then we were so inspired by it that we realized we didn't just want to run it on Thanksgiving Day. We wanted to do it in the lead up to Thanksgiving.
So you could shop for the ingredients.
So people could shop for the ingredients and do the recipes. And so our doodler staff was also in the kitchen and has also done a photo shoot with Ina. And so one of the questions is, what was it like being involved in the Google Doodle?
Well, I mean, it started out with an email from Marissa, and she knows I was walking around all day going, oh my God. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. It was in the middle of my book tour, and the only day that we could find to do it was a Sunday. So, I mean, they flew in, and it was Preston and Mike Dutton. Preston Hirschhorn and Mike Dutton, if they're here. And oh, there they are. And it was so much fun. And you just think, oh, we'll just whip something up. And as we all know from a photo shoot, it's never what, it's never, you just whip something up. We had like 2 turkeys ready. We had two of everything. And it was a really exciting day. It was wonderful.
It was a beautiful
And
day.
it was fun to see the photographs that we were taking. The photographer had the digital image, and then to see Mike and Preston move it into the actual doodle. So it was thrilling.
We had a
Doesn't get
great
any better than
response
that.
Yeah.
Did you have a great response?
We had a great response to
good.
it. I mean,
Oh,
like
good.
probably you saw some of it too, but we were on NPR and
Oh,
like
how fabulous.
like hundreds of mentions all over the web and like like let alone the tweets, right? The tweets just were I think probably
saw the
numbered
word
into hundreds of
volcanic
thousands
somewhere.
Yeah.
That was good. That
it
was a
was
good
amazing.
description.
So one of the questions is, since you're here in the Bay Area, are there any restaurants that you love going out to here?
Well, I love being here because the food is amazing. I mean, just from the farmer's market at the Ferry Building. But I have to say, secretly, the best meal I've ever had was at Marissa's house. And it was the chef at Quinn's, which is just fantastic. It was really stunning. I mean, both the food and the wine, it was just incredible.
Yeah, he did.
Thank you.
This is Michael Tusk, one of the local chefs, and he did a
Yeah.
really good job. His pasta is just to die for. That's what he's most known for.
Oh, that was just fantastic. And last night we went to Tyler Florence's restaurant, Wayfair Tavern, which was great. Which is great. Everybody, there's something just so sort of democratic about food here. It's just available to everybody. And I've always loved Zuni Cafe. And the first time I went there, we took a taxi from the hotel to the cafe. And the taxi driver said, "Oh, you've just got to get the roast chicken and the Caesar salad." And I thought, how great is that? And here, everybody I was telling, we were going to Wayfair Tavern, and they were like, "Oh, you have to get the fried chicken and you have to put the lemon on it. It's really important." I was like, that's good. So I love that it's available to everybody. Everybody really cares about good food, and it shows.
We've got a live question.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Ina. Thanks so much for coming. This is
Oh,
really fun.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I think it's safe to say that you've been a really big inspiration to a lot of people who,
Thank
either
you.
who haven't cooked before or who just want to, enhance their skills and whatnot and become better chefs. But what I'm curious to find out is what inspires you, and if you could walk us through the process of what it's like to come up with a new recipe and put something together.
A friend of mine always said, and I think it's really true, you can't have ideas sitting home by yourself. You have to get out there, especially in the sort of design world, in the world of food. You have to see what's going on. One thing that I learned about having a specialty food store is the food that you eat at home is very different from the food you eat in a restaurant. And so it's home cooking that I'm really interested in. When I first started, I would do like veal with morels in the store, and nobody would buy it. And then I remember putting out a huge platter of chicken that was that had fresh herbs on the platter. It looked just gorgeous. Nobody bought one of them. So I took the platter, I went back into the kitchen, and I came out with chicken in those little red paper cups that you get French fries in, and lined them up on the counter, and they just flew out of the store. So I thought, okay, it's about home cooking. And so what I like to do is go to specialty food stores, but it's even sometimes I go to Milan and see the colors of the new fashions. And one year I remember when I was doing my first book, it was they were doing cantaloupe and azure blue and raspberry together, and I thought, oh, that's good for the colors of the book, and that's what I did. So I think about something that I would want to eat, and I sort of say this. I'm like an idiot savant about what people want to eat. Nobody wants to eat fish eyeballs and foam. You want to eat like roast chicken and rack of lamb. And so I start with an idea of what I want it to taste like and what I want the texture to be. And if I don't, I never get where I'm going. But if I do, it's that little ping in my head that says, okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. And it could take 2 tries or it could take 25 tries. But I don't stop until I get there.
And then, you've a lot of books, TV show. What's next for you?
I always say this, if it just stays just the way it is right now, I'll be very happy. And then something comes along the screen and I go, oh, that might be fun. But it's got to be fun.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you very much for coming. My question was actually very similar to hers. I think that you've all given us a very inspirational story for sort of how you've gotten to where you are now. But I think a lot of us are kind of curious to know sort of what's on the horizon, if there are any things, sort of a direction for your next cookbook, or if there's something aside from writing cookbooks or appearing on TV that you'd sort of like to do with, I guess, the inspirational journey that you've already gone on.
I just always I get up in the morning, I think, what would be interesting to do today? And it's just, for me, just putting one foot in front of another and doing what I think is really interesting and challenging myself. And I always feel like the rest of it follows.
I have 2 teenage daughters who are 15 and 17, and I'm realizing they're going to go off to college soon, and I haven't done a very good job of teaching them how to cook. we normally go to Panda Express, but I'm working on that. But I just wondering if you have any tips on sort of teaching our children, our teenagers, how to cook so that they like it, so that they don't associate it with
Work.
chore, with,
Yeah.
and any particular tips or recipes that you have for teenagers.
Well, I mean, now it's not the situation where mom's at home all the time and teaching everybody how to cook and enjoying it and transferring that pleasure. I actually think Food Network has been amazing because kids all watch Food Network. And particularly I like the boys, 8-year-old boys are cooking because of Bobby Flay and Emerald and all the guys who are, it's fun. They see that it's fun, that it's really exciting. And I think the biggest lesson is that if you cook, everybody shows up. And it's that simple. It really is. So if you enjoy everybody showing up, they'll learn to cook.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks for coming.
Sure.
Two-part question. So just read Anthony Bourdain's book, Medium Raw, and have kind of related to your fish eyes and question. First, what's your take on Anthony Bourdain? What's he like in person, if you've ever met him? Just because I'd love to hear And second,
I love Anthony Bourdain.
do you think like home cooking can be as kind of high culinary as, these crazy creations such as making foams and eating eyeballs and other kind of, small plate type things where you pay a lot of money and
Well, a lot of the sort of really sort of molecular gastronomy requires equipment. And I would never have that equipment because nobody has it. I think home cooking is much more sort of satisfying, more traditional. I think people go out sometimes for a satisfying meal, but also to be challenged. So I think that, I went to a restaurant with a friend of mine, and she ordered oyster ice cream, and I was just like, oh God, nobody ever needs to eat oyster ice cream. So this doesn't inspire me to want to make it at home. But I think you certainly can. But you always have the feeling, I remember when I was first married, I read an article sort of for young brides that said, which was eons ago, that said if you spend the entire day making dinner for your husband, he can't possibly appreciate it enough. And it's not his fault, it's your fault. So if you spend the entire day making dinner for your friends or your family or whatever, they can't possibly appreciate it enough. They're going to eat it in half an hour no matter what it is. So I think the simpler it is, the more satisfying it is to them, but also to you. So I think, and actually I think Anthony Bourdain is fantastic. I love what he does. I actually haven't met him, but I love his work, and it's fantastic.
I think it's interesting because one of the things we do here at Google is we have something that we call dog food.
Dog food.
Meaning like eat your own dog food. And so one of the things we do, similar to you having just one oven and trying to put yourself in the
Yes.
place of the users,
Yes.
is we make a point of using all of the Google products.
that's
So
really
like everything,
exactly the same
Google
thing.
Docs runs on, we do all of our doc work on Google Docs.
Yeah.
And calendar and Android
Eat your own
phones. And
dog
so,
food.
so everyone uses the product so they can really be in the place of the user, in your case, of the viewer, the person who's
I
trying
think
to cook.
it's a really important point. And actually, once I figured out a recipe, that's just the beginning of how I test the recipe. I then hand the recipe. Once I figured out exactly what I wanted to, I hand it to my assistant, and I say, she's never, with nothing else other than a printed page, I say, make this, and I sit there and watch her, and she does the craziest things that would never occur to me to do. And so then I write the recipe around that because that's what somebody at home is going to do. And I've been in the food business too long. It would never occur to me to stir the caramel with a spoon. So you have to swirl it in the pan. And then the next thing I do is what I call road testing it, which is I put it together with a meal and I feed it to my friends. And sometimes they're invited for 6 desserts because I want to see which one they want to eat. And that's my, some road testing the recipes.
Road testing the coffee cake was unbelievable. Thank you. I'm hoping the recipe is in the book.
It's on my email. I'll send it to you.
Let's go ahead for another question there. Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a story of making a dish that went horribly wrong?
Horribly wrong. I tend not to make something that I haven't made before, literally even for dinner for Jeffrey. I do remember when we first got married, I made some recipe that had like ground beef and corn in it that was just dreadful. Something that's just gone horribly. I remember a dessert when, just didn't happen right. I don't know what happened. And it was the genesis. I thought, oh my God, people are coming in like an hour and I don't have dessert. And I decided, well, I had some creme fraiche and honey and vanilla, and I made a honey vanilla creme fraiche for the berries that I had in the refrigerator. And it was the genesis of one of the best recipes I've written. It was really simple, and it's out of the disasters that something good comes out of it. Hi.
I have just a quick question related to the last question. How do you handle it when a recipe fails and you have company? Do you apologize? Do you ignore it? What's the best steps of kind of handling and communicating the disaster?
I said, nobody ever needs to know. It's that simple. I remember being at a friend's house for dinner party, and we're all, it was like 20 people for dinner, and we were all having cocktails, and everybody's having a good time, and it got later and later and later, and everybody said, you go into the kitchen and find out what's going on. So I went in, and it turns out she had set out all the first courses on the table, and her 2 dogs had jumped on the table and gone all the way down the table and eaten everybody's first course. And she was trying to make a first course. And I said to her, you know what, just forget the first course. Let's just have dinner, we'll sit down, and nobody will ever know. So nobody ever needs to see you sweat. And if all else fails, there's always takeout pizza. And you can, a friend of mine actually has what she calls their disaster Christmas party. Every year something horrible happens, and they just laugh about it. And those are the ones, the caterer got stuck in traffic, and then the sofa caught on fire one time. It's always something, and those are the best parties. So you just have a good laugh about it, and nobody ever needs to know.
Hi, as a beginning home cook, kind of out of college where all you cook with is a microwave and whatever you steal from the cafe, what are the 3 basic things you need for a home cook? Because I think watching TV shows, it can be very overwhelming. They have a KitchenAid, a food processor, and everything.
I'm thinking if there's anything that you can't cook, if you have knives and have sheet pans. You can make roast chicken, you can make roast carrots, and maybe one's like a saucepan that you can make some pasta in. You really, this is the book I'd really love to write, is the only 10 recipes you need to know. Because if you can make a roast chicken, you can make roast Cornish hens, you can make a roast turkey. It's the same process, it's just slightly different times. If you can make a chicken pot pie, you can make a lobster pot pie, you can make a vegetable pot pie. So choose one thing like a roast chicken, which is actually really simple to do. Test it when you don't have any guests, so you learn how to do it, and just keep making it over and over again. Hi.
Great. Thanks
Nice
for
to
coming
see
here
you again.
today. And my wife is definitely one of your biggest fans.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit about how you got into television, but you also made the jump from the White House to the Barefoot Contessa. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what inspired you to do that and what advice you would give to other people who are looking to make that sort of a career jump.
Well, I've sort of, when I was in my 20s, my husband was in the White House and the State Department. He worked for Kissinger, and I just, I sort of thought I was the leading generation of women that were starting to work. It never occurred to me to have a career. And so in my 20s, I sort of wanted to grow up to be Jeffrey. And when I hit 30, I thought, he's great, but I don't want to be him. He's like the intellectual in the family. I just want to have fun. So what I used to do when I wasn't working is have dinner parties. Every Saturday I'd have a dinner party, and I worked my way through Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I thought, well, maybe I should be doing that instead. And I was sitting in my office in the White House trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And there was an ad for a specialty food store for sale. And I went home, and I said to Jeffrey, we've got to do something else. And he said, well, pick something you think would be really fun. Pick something, don't worry about making money. Think about what you love to do, because if you love it, you'll be really good at it. And I said, funny you should mention it. I saw this ad, and bless his heart, he said, let's go look at it tomorrow. So I really had no idea what I was getting into, but I knew I was going. That the White House wasn't an option anymore. Nuclear energy policy wasn't my passion. And I loved, if it's anybody's, I don't know.
Actually, I do energy policy here
somebody's.
at Google, and I used to work in the White House doing energy policy.
I'm sorry?
I used to work in the White House doing energy
You're
policy.
kidding.
And I actually do energy work here at Google.
Oh, isn't that great?
But it's my passion.
Congratulations. What administration did you work in?
Clinton.
Oh my goodness, that's fabulous. So you know exactly how I feel.
Right, but I'm not looking to make a career change, just so you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, that's a great career move.
So we have time for just a few more questions. We've got, I think, 3 here, so yeah.
Hi, Ina.
Hi.
Great to see you here at Google. I am not much of a cook, but my wife is a huge fan.
Thank you.
With the tablet computers set to kind of invade kitchens, could you give us an
I'm
artist?
so sorry. Can you speak a little louder? I can't quite hear.
With the tablet computers
Yes.
set to invade kitchens, hopefully lots of Google-based tablets.
Yes.
Android tablets to invade kitchen.
Could you give us an artist's perspective on how you see technology helping us become better cooks?
Well, I think one of the things about tablets that can actually work is, for example, I have my latest book on an ebook through Amazon, and I know it's a thing that you're carrying with you. So I thought, well, how can we make this more appropriate for shopping, say? So all the recipes are in the, it's the whole book, but also every ingredient, you can click on the ingredient and it tells you what a Basque pear looks like, and it tells you how to know whether a Basque pear is ripe when it's brown or green, or should it be soft or should it be hard when it's ripe. Or you go to the olive oil section and it says, there are a million olive oils. I mean, you just can't imagine what to choose. They're the two that I recommend. One's more inexpensive, one's more expensive. So it can have a lot of information for you. And I think it will go towards when you get to, you can tap on the, when you're cooking, you can tap on the word, you know, whip, and you'll see what it means. If you're really a beginning cook, if you need all that help. If you're not a beginning cook, you just cruise right past it. So I think it can have a lot of depth that just a plain printed recipe can't do. So hopefully that's where we're going.
I just want to say I absolutely adore you. And my
Thank
kids and I
you.
have a ritual every night that we have you on in the background while we're making dinner together.
Oh,
so they're going
I
to be
love that you're
thrilled
making
that I
dinner with
say-
your kids. That's
Yeah.
great.
But I just think you're so warm and loving, and
Thank
it
you.
just really comes across. But my
you.
question for you is, when I read that Barefoot Contessa was sold, I was really wondering why you didn't buy it back at that point, and why you let it go, and where is it now? I've always been curious about that.
About the store?
Yes, the
Well, actually, when I actually just made the decision that it was time to sell the store to the employees, and that I was going to take it off, it never occurred to me that I thought that era of Barefoot Contessa was over, and I was going to do something else. And then when I started writing books, I said to them, well, do you want me to write Barefoot Contessa books because they owned the store, or should I do Ina Garten books? And they said, oh, no, please do Barefoot Contessa books. So as time went on, and they decided they wanted to go on, one wanted to have a restaurant, and the other one had children, didn't want to work anymore, I actually bought the business back.
Oh, okay.
So I do own Barefoot Contessa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it
Now,
worked.
where does Jeffrey go? I always wonder. Where is
Yale.
he going? Okay.
Yeah, he was the dean of the, well, he was a lot of things. He was an investment banker. He was in the Clinton administration.
Okay.
And he was the dean of the business school at Yale. I know he looks like a crazy person. Like all he does is just go out shopping for oranges
right.
for me on the show. But he's really a smart guy.
Well, he always comes back for his roasted chicken on Friday night.
Right, that's right. On
Where are
Monday
you coming from?
he goes to New Haven, where he now teaches
Okay.
at Yale, among other things, and then comes back on Friday. That's the roast chicken night.
Thank you.
Ina and Jeffrey are the power couple. In fact, I had lots of emails from Googlers who were had gotten their Yale MBAs.
Oh,
including-
really?
Including
Oh.
Laszlo Bach, who's our head of
how
HR
fabulous.
here. And so he wanted to come and say hello because he was like, oh, Isaac, I know Ina and Jeffrey.
Yeah, Jeffrey has his own. I was having dinner one night at a restaurant in East Hampton with Susan Stroman, who's the producer, no, the director and choreographer of The Producers, among other things, and Mel Brooks and Nathan Lane and Jeffrey and me, and somebody from across the restaurant was coming towards us, and Susan Stroman, who we call Stro said, oh my God, I don't know who this person's gonna come after. Is it Mel? Oh, he's gonna be thrilled. Oh, is it Nathan? He's gonna be really upset. And the person came right over and said, oh my God, Jeffrey Garten. So he has his own base of fans. It was like, get out of the way, Mel Brooks.
Okay, so we'll take one more question and then we'll have casual questions after. Yeah.
Hi, Ina. I was
Hi.
just wondering if you would ever consider being on Iron Chef, and if you were, who would you battle, and what would you want the secret ingredient to be?
Well, I definitely pick a non-cook. The truth is, I'm not a restaurant chef. I can make something perfectly delicious if I have enough time to do it. But I admire those guys enormously. You really have to be a line cook. and a chef to be able to do those. I mean, if somebody gave me, you know, oysters and heavy cream and said, make something out of this, I'd have a total meltdown. So I actually cook the way you do. I'm really a home cook. I know how to do it. I've had a little more experience, so it's a little easier, but I'm really not in that category at all. I consider myself a business person who cooks rather than a chef.
Who would you want to cook aside, though? If you could like have a partner, who would you choose to be your partner?
Well, I love Bobby Flay. I love the way I love his energy, and I love what he does. So I'd choose him, and then I just watch him. I'd be around going, "What should I do now?"
So this has been really, really delightful. And I know we have lots of people who want autographs and photos and want a chance to chat with you. I'm just going to be here for probably about the next half an hour, and then she's going to get to experience a Google lunch. So you'll get to see how our chefs cook.
Thank you so much
this was
for
really
inviting me.
wonderful.
Thank you, Marissa. Thank you.